see you.
So Gus, how you doing?
Pretty good, Jay.
Jay.
I haven't seen you in a while.
Good to see you.
Oh, you in Florida?
Right.
I was in Florida until a month ago, and then that and skiing.
Everybody does a little
So I went.
Hey, Ray.
That's where you went west?
Oh, that's how we.
Actually, no, I did
I will. What's
Steamboat, Copper,
Oh,
then did British Columbia, did Banff, and Calgary area.
Was there
What a yes or
huge
no
amounts of
next
snow in most of those places?
No, right?
That's a no.
You know, there was plenty of Steamboat and Copper.
I would
It
think,
was a
look,
little light up in
it
Canada.
spreads.
Really?
It's definitely
I don't want nothing to spread.
Oh, I'm supposed to show you.
I know
Say
some,
that again, the, which one, the Schumann?
It's the grow low.
some folks were telling me about Park City.
Well, I let everybody in, so.
Yeah, it let me in, so I closed out. I just want to make sure it worked.
And then you got the
It's,
Buffalo Junior,
I'm
no.
gonna go back, I mean, everybody's in here, it's up to you.
Here, I'll show the
Sit
hydrangea.
back here, but I don't know.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
That's the,
Well, that's cool.
I don't know.
I like that.
yep.
Because that's the book.
I can sit there, that's fine. You can sit wherever.
Well,
You all right?
sit down and peek.
Can you run that?
I'll do my best.
And there's the
It
buffalo.
looks like it's all operational.
Hopefully.
How about the groundhog?
Christie got it all set for us. It was a little messed up at first, but
Well, if Christie got it set up, then probably.
should be good.
Should be
What do
good.
we do with the phones?
All right, I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. I'm gonna take the, Linda's not here, I'll take the notes too. Roll call, Gus. Here. Hathaway.
Present.
Harshey.
Here.
Jeff, you here? Holland. Here. Musser, absent. Yelpy, how do you want it to pronounce?
Oh, I'm here.
Thank you. Stites here. Smith, absent. Tinkanow.
Here.
Thank you. Resident and audience participation, we get 3 minutes per comments. Anybody that would like to make a comment? Maybe we'll start with Zoom first, and we'll move over here.
Is this supposed to show hands up on here?
Do you see it?
Under participants, do you see anything?
Yeah, I don't see anyone with a hand raised. There's 6 people present via Zoom.
I mean, I got notifications. A couple people.
Oh, and some of the people who are present via Zoom are also present in person. So,
Just to try, we were testing that out. Are there any, you don't see any comments?
I don't see anyone with a hand raised. I don't know if that's fault of the technology or what.
Would you speak up? I can't hear you.
I am looking to see if anyone's hand is raised who's participating remotely, and I don't see any hands raised.
Excuse me, are
Okay.
you on Zoom?
Am I on?
Is there a Zoom meeting? Okay, we weren't allowed in.
We had some technical difficulties, but I do appreciate you coming in person. I think it's nice.
I can't hear, which is why I go on Zoom.
Well, we'll try to talk loud for you, but I think attending in person is nice. So have we got any comments on Zoom? Are we gonna, any comments here?
What did I just do?
Public comments here?
Okay.
Can you introduce yourself for
There
everybody?
you go. Okay, yep, Jillian Curie. I'm a Scio trustee and the chair of the Road Advisory Committee. So our committee, Roy is here to speak today, which was a surprise to the Road Advisory Committee, as you know from the emails that were passed around today. So I am here because tomorrow night on the Board of Trustees' agenda, Dino Drive is part of that, and it's about funding. So a little history, and I know you just talked about this, Jay, I overheard you, and you were correct on your history, by the way. For the 2008 Township Improvement Revolving Fund, that by law, under Public Act 188, the township to fund SADs either can do bonding or set up through the revolving fund. So history has, and Sandy Egler had given me a little verbal history back in the day, and I tried to convey that through text message the last meeting, but I guess I was wrong. But, so I did some history. Anyways, I did send this to you today because it's important. This revolving fund was set up with the intention for April Drive in Jackson Plaza? Is it Jackson Plaza? Yeah. For a special assessment district. And it was to, part of that, the purpose was to seed that fund. So from then on, any other special assessments for either neighborhoods or whatever would be funded out of that. And the money goes back into that fund to build it, especially, part of the interest. So now that's been sitting there because over time, we've had a lot of special assessment districts for roads. And each road has had their own fund. Lots of problems with keeping track of the expenditures and whatnot. I've been working on this for months, especially with the Fund 400, which is the township-wide. So, coming back to this, there's been $142,000 that have been sitting there. We've been charged audit fees and different things. We have been making a little bit of interest, not much. So this money is not DDA fund. It was, DDA did seed it, but the fund, for half of the cost, and then the SAD was to be paid back into this fund. So this is really for future funding of SADs. So with that said, the township, and I've attended a lot of meetings and watched the Zoom meetings, and the DDA meeting, I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep pointing at you, Jay. Okay, so back in it was July 2021, during your meeting, Enterprise Drive was brought in front of your committee because somebody wanted that paved. Well, the DDA said, and Maureen Sloan, I believe she was sitting over here, said, well, why aren't we doing a special assessment district? My neighborhood had to have one for paving. And at that time, we do have a grant from the WCRC. But at that time, we did not use the grant for 2 years because of COVID. We didn't do anything during COVID. So in order to take advantage of that grant, which I'm definitely in favor of grants, the DDA said, we'll pay half of that for Enterprise Drive. Maureen, and it seemed to be agreed for the DDA that from then on, any other roads would be under a special assessment district. The township board, by law, can initiate a special assessment district under Public Act 188. It's not that hard. Now, of course, we don't have administrative staff in the township, and we are lacking staff. So it's more difficult for people that don't know what they're doing. However, I'm suggesting, and I will have a resolution for tomorrow, to fund Dino Drive if we really want that paved. It's not that bad of a road, seriously. There's other roads that have never been improved that are worse. And I think Meddy Drive is one of them that's really bad, if I remember correctly. I don't know. Yeah? So anyway, the township should not be using taxpayer funds when we have to do our own neighborhoods in order to pave a business drive that they should be paying through a SAD. There's heavy trucks on Dino Drive that's going to break those roads down, and it's going to be needing to be maintained. So I'm suggesting that the township initiate a SAD for that area. And if those business owners come back with a 20% written objection petition and say, no, we don't want this, then we know that the road, they don't want it, and we just let it go. This is a win-win, especially for the Road Advisory Committee, because we are trying to implement policy and recommendations for the board and to get our board to do things properly. And maybe this will force them, us, because I'm part of that, to get our administration and staff set up so we can handle our great township and what we need to support our infrastructure.
Thanks, Jillian.
Okay, thanks.
If there's more comments or questions for Jillian, you can reach her. We've got her email and contact information. So, anybody else for public comments?
I just have a question for Jillian. So basically, you as a trustee support the way that we've proposed that DDA will participate, but an SAD will pay the rest?
No, what I'm suggesting is that the township do a special assessment district, initiate it for that road, should fully fund. If we use DDA money, that's the money that, is captured from the millages that we vote on and are taking, I think, what is it, 50%? Is it, okay, I've heard different numbers, 10 to 50%. So, why not have the people that use that road pay for it.
All right, we'll get in more discussion too as board members here. It's good, thank you for the input. Anybody else? Hi.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Brand, I'm a Scio taxpayer. I have asked Mr. Hathaway multiple times to record this meeting, and I brought it up in front of the Board of Trustees. I want you folks to know that this is the only committee that does not record your meetings. I'm recording, I recorded the last one, there were some significant issues from the last one. If you don't record, it has the impression that you're trying to hide something. And if you have meeting materials that are not posted on the webpage, it gives the impression that you're trying to hide something.
Yep.
So it seems that Mr. Hathaway made a unilateral decision not to record. Could you folks reconsider that? Lots of people look at these after the fact, so it would be nice. Regarding the agenda, you've got something on there about paying invoices. I did notice there's an invoice from Hampton Matthews for just over $9,800. That is not included in the total that you are approving that is out there to be approved. So Hampton Matthews was not included in that total. You might want to look at that. Another item, the financials, there's an invoice from Huntington Bank. I have a question on this. It says that interest due, almost $42,000, and then it says principal due, 0. So my question is, are we not paying principal? Are we only paying interest on a bond payment? That doesn't seem fiscally responsible. Anybody know the answer?
This is public comment time. We'll look at everything you're talking about and
Okay.
discuss it. Go ahead.
And then again, from the financials, and also looking at the amount of interest that was
Trying to limit it to 3 minutes, but I think, Catherine, if you want to call me some other
Excuse
time,
me,
I'll do that.
you are interrupting me. I am at 2 minutes and you are taking my
I'm just letting
time.
you know.
You are taking my time, so you
I'll
need to
give you
compensate.
10 more seconds.
Yeah. Okay. He's trying to upset me and I'm not gonna let that happen. Okay, financials. The DDA holds $2.8 million in a checking account. Is that an interest-bearing account? Because the interest earned from this organization is abysmal. $20,000 on $4.6 million of cash being held. So that's a little alarming. Also, I want to state again that I've stated that it does not seem appropriate that the DDA should be subsidizing local roads that are only occupied by businesses. The DDA is not going to pay for my road, half of it. Scio Township is not going to pay for half of my road improvement, so it doesn't seem reasonable that the DDA should pay half. And also, I have read the resolution for the revolving fund, and I would please ask that you read that, because it does clearly says that the money paid into it is for local roads. And I thank Trustee Carey for finding these documents. It keeps everybody honest in this situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments?
We do have a hand raised now. Jonathan, want to go ahead?
Yeah, I had a couple of comments, but I want to start off by, I'm sorry, who is, I can't see in the video, but who is just telling Kathleen that she had just 10 minutes left? Who was that? Can someone?
Bob, the chairman, the chair of the committee, Bob did. John, you've got 3 minutes as well. This is not going to be a give and take. This is not a conversation. This is public announcements. You want to say something to the board?
I had a question as to who was being a jerk, and now I know. Why do you address the public with such nastiness and such? Oh, look at you guys! Yeah, throw your glass down. Another person complaining. We have to listen to him. Who do you people think you are? Why do we even need a DDA in the first place? You guys are not responsible with regard to handling money if you're only making 20 grand on 44 million. You guys think you're some sort of mafioso leader, guys, who you can talk to the public rudely and then go about and do what you want because you got Will on your side. You don't need to be here, any of you guys. And I'll be honest with you, the rudeness, the nastiness that you show your residents, the contempt in which you talk to them is disgusting. You don't belong there. You should all leave. I just want to also follow up on what Jillian said in my 3 minutes, that you guys don't know what you're doing with regard to these roads. The money needs to, you need to put out, put off your agenda paying for business roads at the residents' expense. None of you have the right to take that money and use it that way. You need to read the laws and understand them as well as our residents do. You're all a very big embarrassment to Scio Township.
Thank you.
That's the,
Any other,
no, there's no other further hands raised.
all right, anybody else? All right. And if anybody has any personal questions or comments, they definitely can reach me. There's, my email's on the website as well as a phone call. And I think, I think a conversation outside of the meeting would be more conducive, but appreciate the comments. So we're going to start with our guest. Again, I invited Roy Townsend, who I've known for 20 years, to come and just give a historical perspective on how the roads have been funded. Again, the DDA bonded Jackson Road, our main road, and paid for that. So the DDA, the purpose of the DDA is to help with infrastructure in the DDA area. Not all of Scio, just the DDA area. And again, there's other committees here in Scio that take care of other roads outside of it, but we're focused on that DDA community and that area. And all of us here have a relationship on the board. You have to have a relationship to that DDA. We either have businesses there, work in that area. To be on this board, you have to be in the DDA. So again, our focus here, if they overlap with the road committee, that's great, or the planning committee, that's great, but it's not, you guys, your focuses are elsewhere as well, so we're just talking about the DDA. So I did invite Roy to come here and just give us a historical perspective on how we funded different roads in the community. And Roy was one of he ran Jackson, the construction of the Jackson Road Boulevard, so, if there's anybody to blame for Roy coming here, it's me, and I'll take that blame. Okay. And I can invite anybody I want to the meetings, or we can. So we don't have to check with other committees to see who's going to speak at our committees.
No, but committee members should be telling their committee.
Well, that's, but again, speaking to the DDA is not, there's no secret motive anywhere for anything. With that, I'm going to just have Roy give a
some kind of mafioso.
historical perspective on what we've done here in the DDA area.
All right.
Thanks for coming.
All right, thank you. Yeah, just to clear, I will not be speaking on behalf of the Roads Advisory Committee, just speaking on behalf of Roy Townsend. I've been involved in roads here in Scio Township. Actually, I think the DDA was formed in 88 or 89. I was there at the beginning. Thinking back, early discussions was, there was a lot of push to make Jackson Road, it was a 2-lane road back then, make a 5-lane road. We did numerous studies, a boulevard, 5 lanes, had public meetings, back and forth. End of the day, I decided to build a boulevard. I was involved in all phases of building and the construction of the different phases, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Jackson Road, work on Wagner Road, work on Z Road, work on Baker Road, interchanges. I've done it all. I've been doing it for, decades. And I enjoy it. Worked the road commission for 31 years, retired there 5 years ago. Now I work for Washington County Parks, building the border trail, which is actually a lot more enjoyable than building roads, but I still have a lot of history on building roads. I'm more than willing to help on, different things and different committees. I'm also on the Parks Committee here, trying to, continue the Z Road Trail up to the border trail, which we're working on right now. And then some of the other parks, linear parks and parks like park right back here, different things, how we can, make Scio a better place to live and a better place to work. As far as the DDA, basically, it's a boundary. You guys all know this, but basically, there's businesses, lots, parcels within the DDA and everything outside the DDA. With that capture, that money that's captured, you figure out, you do the projections, and probably, I don't know the numbers, but probably $20 to $30 million of revenue that's been captured has been invested in Scio Township on the different phases of the boulevard, putting dual water mains, upgrading sewer, all that stuff, so we can have a successful business corridor in Scio Township. I'm not sure what the taxable value of that is, but you go back to 1988 or 89 compared to 2023, I'm sure it's a huge growth. And, you know, I look around at other people, it's like, you know, because I know I work with Pittsfield Township, you know, I work with all 20 townships. Pittsfield's kicking themselves, they did not do that on State Street. State Street's still a 2-lane road, and I know that, you know, the township supervisor down there, she's like, you know, that's what they should have done back in the late 80s, because they wanted Boulevard, there's no way for them to fund it, you know, or at least improvements to State Street, and, you know, thankfully, there was, you know, the vision for Scio back then it was. So I think, you know, look at all the success along this corridor, as far as, you know, Boulevard's a lot safer, it moves a lot of people, it looks good, and it attracts businesses, and it retains businesses too, because people, you know, come to Scio Township like, oh, this is really nice. So I think those are some of the successes we've had, you know, working with, you know, the DDA. You know, I came to the meeting, we used to meet over there, you know, for 20 years on different things on how to get roads funded. I'm also involved, you know, I was involved in the countywide millage, where it went downtown to the county board, 2013, 2014, the roads in, you know, the state of Michigan. Just as a fact is, you know, people always say, why are the roads better in Ohio than Michigan? Ohio spends $1 billion more per year on their road infrastructure. They have about the same number of miles of road. And I think a couple years ago, our governor, Whitmer, said she wanted to spend $3 billion more investing in our roads, which is all great. But Ohio's been spending $1 billion more a year for 30 years. So now we're only $27 billion behind. So that's why, I mean, as soon as you cross the line, you see nice interchanges, you see nice roads, because for whatever reason, you know, our legislators in Lansing decided not to fund roads. That's just a priority, and we have crappy roads. But thankfully in Scio, you know, the Boulevard, the DDA, they have invested, and we have pretty decent roads. The primary roads, the Jackson Road, the Zeeb Road, the Wagner Roads, the Baker, Road Commission's responsible for those. You guys help fund them, actually you funded 100% building those. Now the Road Commission does the maintenance. The maintenance is filling potholes, doing winter stuff, that type of stuff. You guys actually pay for the lawn maintenance. That was a part of the agreement. Because we're like, we're not gonna pay for the paying of the mowing of the boulevard. Scio said, okay, we're gonna do that. So all that stuff. But I think one of the things is, you have all these side streets. You have the Medis, you have Dino, you have Jackson Plaza, you have April, Parkland Plaza. I missed a few of them, but you know, you have probably a dozen different businesses, and those are all business park, but they're local roads versus a primary road, which means the Road Commission by law cannot improve those roads. There's gotta be other funding sources. And over the years, there's been different sources of ways to get it. GDA's funded half of it, SAD's funded half of it, GDA's funded half of it. They use the road matching money to fund it. And there's probably been a few other sources out there as far as, and I think on the whole one on April and Jackson Plaza, you know, the revolving fund was set up, so then that'd be money available for future SADs. That sort of just sat there. So that's another way. There was, you know, that was a vision that they had in 2008. They set it up and then never really went anywhere after it was set up. So it's sitting there. So couple things I was thinking. The countywide millage, it's a $500,000, and there is a capture that, because obviously, I mean, that raises, parks get 20% for non-motorized, and the other 80% go to all the road commission, the county and the cities. The Road Commission shares like $3 million that goes into the roads, and mainly the primary roads. But there is a portion that, you know, that $500,000 generates within the DDA. When I was at the Road Commission, I remember meeting with the DDA and saying, okay, whatever that capture is, would you guys put that back into Jackson Road or different roads? And I know there's a couple agreements that happened. So the question I first would have is, I'm not sure where that capture is. If you guys are still capturing, I'm sure you are. And capture means you're holding it and not sending it downtown to Ann Arbor, which is the county, which you have the right to do that. So whatever that money is captured, you potentially could invest that into your local road network. Find out if it's 40,000 a year, 80,000 a year, 100,000 a year. I forget what that number was.
3 minutes.
He's jumping in and out.
So that'd be one, you know, figure out what that number is, and then you could bankroll that, you know, because now that it was 4 years, this is the second 4 years, so it's been 7 years has been that capture. So that'd be money, you know, if it is, you know, 40,000, 50,000 a year, every 2 years you got $100,000, that, you know, could fund half of a, you know, local road, if the DDA paid the other half type thing. So that's one idea I had, is like, find out where that capture money is going, and it says something DDA wants to reinvest in their infrastructure. That's basically what you guys have always done, is reinvest that money back into the DDA.
So I don't want to interrupt you a lot.
Sure, that's fine. So let me,
I'm just curious, will we have an opportunity to ask questions about specific things? Is that?
it's up to you guys. I'm
Okay.
happy to answer questions.
Oh, hold the question, go ahead.
Okay, so that's one option that I thought of, because I remember when I was at the road commission in 17, 18, because it passed in 2016, the first one, the countywide millage. I remember coming to the DDA, it's like, okay, and then there was an agreement somewhere back in the books between the road commission and the DDA. Some of that capture, you guys invested, I think when we did some of the patching on Zeeb Road or Jackson Road, and here again, like I said, I can't recall, you know, that was obviously, you know, 8 years ago what the dollars were, but that'd be one thing, just to figure out what that is, and could you invest that, because that's like I said, that's what DDA really, whole goal of a DDA, because I mean, the city of Dexter has one, city of Chelsea, Ipsy has like 3 of them, Ann Arbor has them, so you capture that money and you invest it back into your infrastructure to make it a better place to do business, so that's one idea. The other idea I thought of too is potentially, and I don't know, could you set up a special assessment district within the DDA? Now, I'm not sure what the taxable value is, what that boundary is. But you know how you set up an SAD for a neighborhood, you do this, we have an SAD for the whole township. But potentially you could set up an SAD just for the DDA. And let's say, I don't know what the taxable value is of the DDA, but I'm sure it's quite large, probably. I mean, the total township's 1.2 billion, so it's gotta be 500 million, 400 million, the DDA, half of it somewhere. Anyways, figure out what those numbers are. You could levy a tenth of a mil and generate a fair amount of money, whatever that number is. You know, look at all your local roads, you know, like I said, the all those up, figure out, I mean, the road commission does a pacer evaluation, which basically tells you which roads are good, which roads are bad. You come up with that, you develop a plan. It's really, road stuff's really not that complicated. You figure, okay, this road's terrible, you need to pulverize and repave it. This road you need to do preventive maintenance. And it's sort of like your car, you just, if you take care of it, but once it fails, you need to pulverize it. You could come up with a number, I probably could do that in 2 hours, of what it would take to, you know, and say, okay, over the next number of years, we want to invest, you know, whatever the number is, figure out where you could raise that revenue. And I think it could be an SAD for the whole DDA and set it up for X number of years. Obviously, it'd be something you guys couldn't do, but you'd have to do something that township board would initiate, but that'd be one way to figure out. And then you could figure out a plan to take care of all those business park roads along the DDA. So that's one idea. The other idea is do what you've sort of done is like the neighborhood SAD, as I call it, just each road. You know, Dino has theirs, Enterprise has theirs, Medi has theirs, and the township has done that too. I mean, you have the township-wide one, and you also have neighborhood ones. So that's another option that, you know, you've done it. Sometimes it's pushback. Sometimes you get neighbors to sign up, because I think when we did April and when we did Jackson Plaza, we got enough people along there that signed the petition and got the people to do it. Sometimes there's not a lot of people wanting to go door to door knocking on, so the township could initiate it too. Like Trustee Jillian said, that's another option, just have the township do it. So those are some things I was thinking of ways, because I think at the end of the day, you want to come up with a plan, so we're not in a case where the roads are crumbling, there's no way to fix them, because I mean, Scio Township is a wealthy community. It's not like, you know, you look at our numbers, we're in the top 30 townships as far as revenue source in the state. So it's not like we can't afford it, we just need to figure out a way that we can do it and make it reasonable and balance it so it doesn't burden this township, this business versus that business, and figure out a solution. So that's really all I had to say. I'm here, you know, answer any questions you may have. But those are just some things I thought of.
Again, he's a guest, so he's not under the 3-minute rule. It's not public comments. And I go, I heard Ann Arbor has their own SAD or something separate for their roads.
Well, they have a millage. City of Ann Arbor has a millage, like 2.5 mils.
Just for.
Yeah. I mean, Ypsilanti has, a lot of townships have millages for roads, or charter townships like Pittsfield and Superior Townships, which are charter townships, they have a lot more room for the general levy. I think we're a general law township, so I think it's up to 1 mil. They can levy 3 to 4 to 5 mils or something, a lot higher number. So that's how, the Superiors and the other urban townships fund their roads. But Ypsi actually does have their own millage, and the city of Ann Arbor has their own millage, city of Dexter, city of Chelsea. I mean, because money you get from the state is not enough, and local roads aren't funded with state money, so.
So, Roy, contrary to some other opinions I've heard today, and I think you know the answer to this, that DDA funds are generated.
Only by properties in the DDA district.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I've heard different people said, no, but the capture, I've always understood, it's a capture is a boundary, is a line that goes like this all around, all the way to Jackson, from Wagner to Parker, all the way up and down that corridor. And those monies captured within there is the money that's reinvested back into that. So there's always a question, because I think it's limited, DDA can't spend any outside of that versus money inside of that, but go ahead.
And my understanding is that tax incremental revenue is only on the change in the value. So since DDA was started, we set a starting point of the value, and then as the values of the property go up, and of course they go up because of our investment in our infrastructure in the DDA district, then those are the funds that DDA receives. And just
That's the whole idea of, when the state legislature, I'm not sure when they created DDAs, but that was the whole idea is like, how can you reinvest in, in your urban cores? That was, sort of the idea back in, so like, oh, this can work along here. So yeah, before Meyer went in, that was just a cornfield and it was assessed at $100,000 or whatever. Obviously, after Meyer goes in, forget the dark store thing, but now their value is X. So that incremental, it went from, let's say, $1 million to $5 million. That $4 million incremental increase is what the DDA is able to capture.
And just to be clear, for those in the audience and the rest of you, we don't get all of that increase.
Right.
We get an increment of that under an agreement with the taxing authorities.
And again, if we didn't have a DDA, we would lose that revenue. Because it doesn't go back to the Scio township, it would go back to the state entities, yeah.
Right.
So again, with having a DDA helps keep the money in the DDA and Scio township. Again, that money would be gone, so. I think it's beneficial to the community to have this DDA.
Bob, can I just add one thing?
Sure.
I learned this recently. There are some properties in the DDA district that are subsidized by the DDA because the baseline was set back in whenever the DDA was created back in the late 80s. And some of those properties, for example, former ProQuest site, are now kind of underwater compared to where they were at in terms of valuation in the late 80s. And for those properties, the DDA has to pay to make up the difference between what they were valued at in the late 80s and what they're valued at now.
Again, the DDA doesn't assess those property taxes, so that'd be the assessor question or somebody else, so. We're using the money that we're allocated through the revenue through the DDA. But yeah, obviously there's some issues with different buildings and property taxes. And we did talk about the dark horse issue, because you get these bigger companies, you get the Lowe's or the Myers. If they did leave, what's the value of that business? So there's been I guess there were some state court cases regarding that, but we're fortunate here. We do. We're in a nice community. We have high tax revenue compared to the rest of the state. We just need to use it wisely. So, any other questions for Roy?
I had just a specific one on the 0.5 mil levy. And so your idea is to capture the portion of that the DDA taxpayers are paying and put it back into roads? So,
Go ahead.
well, yeah, I guess explain it, but so those DDA businesses are paying in that $500,000 SAD. And
Not SAD, countywide millage.
I'm sorry, yes. And then then it goes to the general fund or to the county to divide it up, allocate it among the various entities, right? And you're saying that the potential might exist for the DDA, instead of that portion coming from the DDA going with the rest of it, that the DDA is able to retain it and use that specifically for roads.
Yeah, so, yeah, in 2016, and then it was renewed in 2020, is the $500,000 countywide for roads. Roads, 20% goes to pathways, 80% goes to roads. So the DDA, because I remember this specifically, like the city of Dexter, city of Chelsea, city of Ann Arbor, they capture it, and then they send it all downtown to in county's keeping all this money. And my understanding was the DDA, back in 16 and 17, they kept that money, the money that's captured, because they were gonna invest that back into roads. I'm not sure what happened, 18, 19, 20, but that, first figure out how much that is. I'm sure it's more than $10, but, it might be enough. It's like, okay, you roll it over every couple of years, you might have enough to help fund a local road. And because you are investing it back into, infrastructure, road infrastructure. So it's just.
So in effect, that would be in addition to the TIF revenue that the DDA currently receives. Okay, thank you.
Good ideas.
The one road that you forgot was Enterprise, I think, the side road, Roy.
I probably forgot about half of them.
Well, that one was one that we did in 2021, and in part we did it with money from the revolving fund.
No, I think the road, didn't you use road commission, not revolving, but road commission money?
There were, I think, three
Sources, okay.
There's a pot of money that we had to use or lose.
We helped, Scio helped, and then road commission helped.
And
Okay.
Scio's portion, I believe, came from the revolving fund.
Okay. I wasn't involved in that one, so I really can't speak.
So Ray, you probably know the answer to this. What's Stabler Road, does that fall as a local road now?
Yeah.
Even though, it was downgraded from being on, before the expressway was built, it was.
Yeah, but it was a collector road, local collector road. Then the freeway came and cut it off, just like West Delhi is considered a local collector road. Freeway cut off Delhi, you get that piece on the south side, and same with Stabler, you got a piece. So those are considered local collector roads. They're not like a business park, but they're still considered a local road. And collector means that the collector roads, you collect the traffic, they take them to the primary road.
Collector road.
No, Wagner would be a primary road.
So Stabler had been, okay.
That's determined by the state of Michigan. They decide which are primary
So that
roads.
falls under our group of roads that we might want to include, Stabler.
Right.
Stabler, Eddy.
Right, because the south part, I'm not sure if the south, well, I guess portion of the south is probably in the DDA, half of it anyways, I guess. And actually, that's Mr. Farmer Grant's. They originally were not in the DDA. And actually, if you go back to 2006, that was not in the DDA. It was added later because the Farmer Grants did not want to be in the DDA. Because they didn't want water or sewer. They didn't want to have to pay taxes for water and sewer. I remember those arguments in 88 and 89. And then eventually, because obviously there's value in having water and sewer for a farmland. Because obviously you can build a Menards there and build other things there. But yeah, the north part is definitely in DDA. I'm not sure the south part maybe up to the creek there where Menards. I don't know exactly how far the DDA goes in the south side.
The Stabler Road North.
Stabler Road North, I think.
It's a dead end.
Yeah, I think that's all. The boundary does a lot of weird things about different parcels.
It's a Class B industrial road, pretty much.
Right.
That's where it is, yeah.
So recognizing how the DDA is funded with tax increment, the portion above where the base was, it's captured, it's only from the DDA district. And if you use a primary road, if we work on a primary road as with the boulevard, then there can be some supplemental assistance from Washtenaw County Road Commission and maybe the state and others, less so with the collector roads. But no less, those collector roads are no less funded or no less pay into the DDA budget, nor are they subsidized by Scio townships generally, right? So if I'm living outside of the DDA and I pay my $500,000 levy, maybe some of that goes to roads in the DDA, but if we decide to do Medi or one of these other collector roads, the residents aren't paying for that. It's coming from the DDA and being put back into the DDA, which was the whole reason for having a DDA.
Right. Yeah, I'm not an accountant, I don't audit your books, but in theory, yeah, the DDA created this boundary, you capture that money, it's invested back within the DDA, because I was at some, just, back in the day, discussions like, can we spend money outside the DDA? And the answer usually is always no, you can only spend money within the DDA, because there's like, oh, we'd like to do this, well, it's not. If it's, is it in the DDA? Yes, then you can, if it's not, you can't. Same thing, I live outside the DDA, I live, in South Township. My money, I pay my taxes, I can't imagine why the township would put, that money into the DDA, because the DDA is sort of a separate entity as far as taxes. So same thing, DDA can't spend it, I guess the township probably could if they wanted to, but I'm guessing they probably don't. I really don't know that for a fact, but,
If
that answer your question?
The DDA to allocate it outside of the DDA is limited by the enabling legislation for the DDA. I mean, there's definite restrictions on how it can be spent. Yeah.
But residents of Scio Township, Roy, live off a road that was paid for and developed by the DDA in their funding.
Seed Road, right.
South Sea, right, yeah, so.
So there may be residents.
So there's benefits to the residents.
Absolutely.
That we've improved these roads.
Yeah, and they're still going to Meyer off of Deep Road or off of the.
But that's the whole thing, it's a give and take trade, I mean, we're all in to make things better, but then to be attacked, I kind of have a problem with that. And I do want to make a comment at this point too, that the DDA is restricted by the state as to what we can invest in and where we can put our money. And we can't just put it in a bank in CDs, for instance, of our choice at 4.5%. It's restricted.
And there's Cedar's rules, and again, $44 million, I don't know what the road is valued at, but on our sheet, we own Jackson Road on our sheet, so it's like $28 million of that. So, but we can sit down with it, some accounts and go through it if you want, but it's all there.
We have to carry it as an asset as part of our accounting. Yeah.
All right, any other questions for Roy? Good insight. And again, there's a lot of opportunities for us, a lot of different ways to do it. All these road projects, again, Jay and I have been on the board a long time, they're all funded differently because, sometimes they're a long road with little businesses, sometimes big businesses, sometimes we have the money, sometimes we don't. The good thing is that the DDA does have some money to spend. We're trying to get help from Washoe Road Commission. They allocated $100,000 for Scio Township alone. So, I kind of almost feel bad for them. They don't have money to spend to help us. And that's what I think Spalding in the past have realized, that, we have to help ourselves here. Because you can blame the system and say they should give money down from the state or whatever, but it's not going to happen for a long, long time. So to correct it, but I think with us within Scio working together can correct a lot of these things. Go ahead, Will.
Can I ask Roy one more question?
Yeah.
So this proposed agreement with the road commission, and I know in the past, Roy, you and I have talked about the advantage, the relative advantages of working in partnership with the road commission. I'm wondering if you could just comment on the benefit of doing the agreed upon projects with the road commission.
Yeah, I mean, one thing, the road commission, obviously, they have road experts. I mean, that's what they do, is take care of the roads in Washington County. And so, I mean, that's what, we work with all 20 townships, Scio including it, and the DDA. And one of the things they do is they contract, so let's say you want to, pulverize Dino Drive, whatever road, Meddy Drive, they take seasoned bids. So you don't have to take bids. They already have the contractor, so they got prices. And we tell Pittsfield Township, Ipsy Township, we tell, I just saw the agreement, Pittsfield's doing $1.5 million. Lodi's doing 1.1 million. Dexter's doing 800,000. So they take those prices, and then like the local gravel roads, they take bids on limestone. They get, because I remember I was back in the day in Saline Township. Saline said, well, we have trucking companies right in our business. We're going to get prices from them. We were like, sure, go get your prices. That's fine. He came back to us like, oh, we can't beat your prices because we buy, at the time, we were buying like 100,000 tons of limestone. I mean, like, lots of it. So we get good prices, and they manage the project for you. So you sign the contract, they'll tell you when it's going to happen, and then they do the project. And obviously they charge their staff time. But in the day, the overhead's pretty minimal, and they get the project done. They take care of all the headaches. So that's why it's sort of like, a la carte. You want this road pulverized and paved? Okay, that's this price. You want it overlaid? This price. You want chip seals? That price. Limestone's that price. They give you a price, and you guys decide if you want to do 2 roads, 10 roads. And that's what we do that. I mean, I say it, the road commission, I used to do that for all 20 townships. You decide what you want to do, or if you don't want to do anything, that's fine. And if you don't want to do it, then just take that matching dollars. The matching dollars is just an incentive to you to invest, because by state law, you don't have to invest a penny in the local roads. You don't have to. But the road commission can't, by law, invest in rebuilding roads. So it's this challenge, like, okay, no one's going to do it. That means they're just going to fall apart. So that's why they encourage townships to do it with the matching dollars. So that's why it's like, yeah, it only makes sense when they're giving you $100,000, $99,900 and some, to put that back into Scio Township roads. You know, if it's in the DDA, so be it. If it's outside the DDA, so be it. You know, you guys, you know, elected board, you decide where you spend it. That's up to you guys. But it makes sense to do it, and they try to make it as easy as possible. And like I said, the sooner you make those decisions, the sooner you're going to get in line to get that work done. Because like I said, Lodi has already signed their agreement, so they're probably starting on Lodi projects. The longer the township takes, the longer later you're in the season to getting that work done. That's just how it works, you know, it's pretty simple. So does that answer your question well?
Yes, it does, thank you.
What's the best way to proceed with an SAD since we don't have staff to do that? Scio Township says they don't have staff to organize, put together an SAD. Is this something we can hire a consultant to do?
Yes, I don't know if, I'm sure there's some consultants that do SADs.
Well, when you were with the road commission, there were SADs all the time, right?
Right, because, I mean, the road commission can do an SAD too. You can, I mean, go that route too.
Okay, that's what.
But the township is the only one that can impose an SAD. When you go to the road commission, they're gonna say, okay, here, you got 51% or, you know, of the frontage. That's what they're gonna say, okay, this is a process. You go out and, you know, go to circulate your petition, then you come back to the road commission and it's like, okay, you got this, then we'll start the
As
project.
far as structuring the agreement, the SAD, basically, the road commission will structure it, give it to, can they give it to our board of trustees? Jillian?
We do have a policy we've been working on, but it would, working with legal counsel, the road advisory committee could work with legal counsel, and then, you know, the assessor, because she has to be involved. We can make it happen, and this is something that we were charged to do, and we just need an excuse to do it.
It does seem somewhat of a template, though, to do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like, I mean, Scio's done it in the past. It's not like, I mean, obviously having more staff would be easier, but it's not like, it's like, okay, let's go build the next phase of Jackson Boulevard with, you know, 2 shovels. No, we can do this. You just got to structure it. And it's like, okay, figure out who's going to do this and, you know, pass the resolution the first thing to get the ball rolling. It's like, okay, this is what we want to do. And, you know, then there's the public meetings, all the process. A lot of just sending out letters and saying, okay, this is what it's going to be. So I think, to me, it's doable. Obviously, I don't work at Scio Township, so I'm not the one making that ultimate decision. But, I mean, it's not, you know, it's very possible. So I think that's something, you know, what Jillian proposes, that is an option. And I think it is doable. But here again, I don't make those decisions.
Love your 2 shovel analogy, too. So.
Thanks, Roy.
Yep.
Any other questions? So I'm kind of jumping around the agenda a little bit. We'll just, because we just went through and talking about the roads, the discussion items, the A, you know, why a lot of this came up is we're looking at using some of that revolving fund to help fund Dino Drive that we've been trying to get done for 3 years, I think. And again, it's inside our DDA. I know there's other roads outside of the DDA in Scio Township, but that's not our responsibility. So the question is, how and do we want to fund Dino Drive? If you look at your notes, Washington Road Committee is receptive to helping us do that. They can put it in their time frame for this year. So it's a project I think Gus got. I didn't print enough for everybody. I think Gus has that. You know, we could sign an agreement with them to facilitate that for this year. The DDA has committed $119,000, I believe, roughly. Was it 119?
118.
118 to that project. You know, it's, again, how do we come up with the rest? Do we want to do it? I think we would have to ask the trustees, obviously, for that revolving fund.
Could I interject?
Yeah, go ahead, Will.
Just because I think there's
Go ahead.
some explanation that might help put this in context. So at the meeting where the DDA board approved its budget for this fiscal year, we put in $118,000 for roads within the DDA district. $18,000 of that is now committed to and was discussed at the time for the 4 projects that the road commission had proposed for Scio Township that fell within the DDA district. So those 4 projects, improvement projects, got pulled from that long list that the road commission provided back, I think, in January, and they were put in a separate agreement, and that agreement has been approved. So what remains that the DDA had put in its budget for this fiscal year is $100,000. And when we did that, the discussion was, let's get a recommendation from the road commission as to how we might spend that money within the DDA district. So that question was posed to the road commission. The road commission's response took a little while to get, but basically what they said is, we can't figure out a project that you could do for, a discrete project that you could do for that amount. You need to add more money in order to do something. The projects that we recommend are either Dino Drive or Medi Drive, top priority being Dino Drive. But you want to move the camera? You can do that. So the question was sort of hanging there, and that's when the Roads Advisory Committee's report came almost at the same time, saying that the Roads Advisory Committee had a discussion about the revolving fund and recommended that it says in the report, it's your report.
We didn't recommend it, we discussed it.
Well, it says in your report that the recommendation was that the township find a way to spend the money in the revolving fund on a road project or turn it back over to the DDA. That's what it said in the report. And I said, hey, here's a fund. The Roads Advisory Committee has pointed at it. It has, for whatever reason, it has a relationship to the DDA. Now, that's, that history is sort of being discussed at this point. But my experience with the revolving fund is that it was connected to the DDA, that it had its origins in the DDA, and that it could be used to pay for the DDA. That's certainly the implication of the report from the Roads Advisory Committee, that the funds in that revolving fund could be used for that purpose. And partly, I thought that was okay, because we had done so, the township had done so with Enterprise Drive. We had used money from the revolving fund to help pay for the cost of repaving Enterprise Drive in 2021. So that's how that proposal came together. It seemed
Do we spend money from the revolving fund?
we spent money from the
It's supposed to be
revolving.
paid back. That's why it's called revolving.
Well, whatever.
Goes out, comes in, goes out, comes in.
I understand, Jay, that there's discussion about how the revolving fund is supposed to work. And I don't know that isn't how it did work. I don't know.
Without an SAD, that's how it works.
It has $143,000 or something like that in it. And that, together with the $100,000 that the DDA had appropriated, according to the road commission, is enough to do the Dino Drive project. That's how it came forward. Now, whether that is something that this board approves, wants to do, is the question that's before the board today. But that's the backstory to how that came together. There's no sort of weird plot or anything like that. Everything seems sort of logical leading up to this point, and then people started raising all sorts of issues about the revolving fund and how it's supposed to operate and whether it can be spent on DDA projects or not. And so I just thought everyone should have the backstory.
And again, Jay and I were on the board then, Sandy was not here, she was there, so it was set up to be a revolving fund, and maybe we can do the same thing with Dino Drive. We can use this money there, the businesses on that street, which they have been contacted numerously. So they know this is going on, trying to get that paved. Maybe they can pay half of the project again in an SAD. I don't know how to set that up or anything, but we would collect the 50% back and revolve it forward to the next project. I think that'd be a fair solution to this. And again, the money was collected from the DDA in the first place. Ryan?
Yeah, so two questions. Will, you said $143,000 or so is in the revolving fund now, plus $100,000 we have budgeted, leaves this project $5,000 and change short.
When the road commission gave us the quote, they said they were confident that they would be making up savings, that
Okay.
there was a conservative quote. That
Okay.
They were confident that it was gonna come in under that cost. I think that is,
Excellent.
Roy's gone, but I think that is the standard road commission practice.
Good, glad they're able to save money from the quote. The second question I guess I had, I think it would make more sense to do something where, I know at least two businesses previously, I believe Combined Metals was one, I don't remember the other one, gave the DDA and or the township money as a donation or whatever you wanna call it, towards paying for the road. So it seems like you said, Bob, a bunch of these people have been contacted numerous times and a few of them were interested in contributing, but not necessarily all of them. Potentially, if they're contacted and say, look, either we'll do this way or we won't. This solves the revolving fund problem because at least we get 50% of the money back to put in the revolving fund to revolve, to Jay's point. And two, it says, do they really want it fixed? I mean, the road commission's identified as a problem, but do they think it's a problem? I mean, I drove both Medi and Dino, and personally, I'm not a road scientist or anything, but Medi seems worse, especially near the back.
Yeah. I mean, they've all been contacted. They know 2, 3 businesses made donations that we actually gave back to them because the project kind of fell apart then, but they're all well aware of it. And I think it's gonna have to take an SAD to move them. They're not gonna volunteer anything else, so the rest of the businesses there.
I think they said the last time they wouldn't. They already said that.
A couple of them, I think specifically.
They'll be
And then, so then we'll go back up to the landscape project that Gus is heading up. Hello.
I will.
Hello? What, Gus?
Oh, the
Well, he's
landscape
trying to-
project,
Hold on. Testing?
I think you better go to the one before that. Mute. Is your phone?
Are you on?
No, it's not.
We can see you and hear you. It's wonderful. Thank you.
We're getting a lot of feedback on this end, so we're trying to fix it.
If somebody has their laptop open in Township Hall, you need to mute yourself because that will cause feedback too.
We were Googling, which ones would go in the garbage.
Good.
And removing those from the boulevard.
less is more.
Less is more,
Less is more. Yep.
a lot less.
Lot less. They want more wishes. They want.
No.
This is only.
All of the bushes, no matter what, will collect something. Will all collect garbage. Well, is there anything,
That's the.
is there anything else to put your
Laws, okay.
Bob, did you ever hear anything back
Okay,
from
definitely.
about the?
Okay, definitely talk to him about different exactly.
Yeah.
Stuff you can.
I think, even if you put bushes and trees.
Me too. Me too.
Do we have to act on it?
I'd like to make a decision there that. He takes this street, puts it here, takes this street, puts it here. Let me know what you should put it, stick it on. And that was good.
Simple. Keep it simple.
Yeah, we'll save.
Less mulch, less, yeah.
Yep, yes,
Hardly any mulch.
Yeah.
yes,
Right.
agree.
And no mulch around the trees.
No,
Okay.
because that never lasts.
No.
Yeah, the mulch is 6 months to a year and then we'll have to
The only
re-mulch.
problem with, I've been told, I don't know if this is true, with not having the mulch around the trees, it's good vapor retention.
Yeah, for water.
You can hear it, okay.
It's dry, those and we've had problems with all those trees dying because the ground is rock hard.
Oh,
I know, but I got 100 of them. None of them will die. I got no mulch around any one of them.
No, that's why the project up there, it's really dry.
I mean, I don't see any one of them dying. Even though all the trees are
Depends on
down.
the tree and the
Well, maybe
season,
that's
how
the
well
help.
established they are.
maybe that helps the decision of what type of tree goes in.
Absolutely, that should be part of the decision. What's hardy, what.
Yep.
Yes.
We put water bags on them,
Resistant.
get them going.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
I
you,
just wanted
Gus.
to let everyone
Set.
know, we seem to have solved the Zoom problem. We have both audio and video.
All right, good.
All right, I don't know what exactly happened when we lost the internet connection, but getting it back caused all kinds of headaches.
We'll turn over to Gus and Jennifer. They're gonna talk about the landscaping project on the boulevard and give us some options regarding
Keep it simple.
beautifying the DDA.
I'll set up a meeting ASAP. and
Yep.
Let you know ASAP, possibly even this week, for him to come down and talk to us. And
Okay.
I'll hear someone at a restaurant, okay, that we can walk there and look at one of those beds and just tell them exactly what we need. And then we'll come back and present it, or we'll send them an email
Yep.
to the board and say, okay, this is what it is, and it should be considerably less for the landscape. As far as the sign, which was part of my project, the gentleman has all the specs and the sign hasn't given me a price. By the end of the meeting, maybe I'll have a price for you. He's still working on it. I think it's a good looking sign. You're gonna change everything. I don't know what the cost of it is. If it's a lot of money, I think we live with what we got.
So we're doing two signs or one sign?
Where's the sign
One at the
going?
end,
Wouldn't,
two,
yeah,
each end of the boulevard.
one on each end, exactly where they are right now. Yeah.
Yes.
Any questions?
Like it.
So they probably can't do the planting this spring and over the summer, so we can approve hopefully at the next meeting and then have it done in the fall, correct?
Next meeting's not until July, I believe, right?
What's that?
July is the next meeting.
Yeah.
Well,
It's fine.
unless we'll have a price within 10 days. I'm pretty sure for him, we'll have a price within 10 days. And a sketch. Everybody, me and Jenny can send it to everybody.
Right.
Colorful, you can see it, and then
If they're in a hurry, we can have a special meeting, call the meeting, and then we can vote on it. But again, we budget about $100,000 for that
we're gonna
project.
try to get it done at that. below that.
Good.
Bob, did you get the letter that Scott?
Yeah,
Okay, I don't know if that.
I didn't circulate it. I got
arrived
it
at the last minute.
11:30
Yeah.
today.
I know.
I'll bring that up to the other one. There is some, Scott Hedberg helped out back 20 years ago, and I guess there's some trees that were planted in honor of the past supervisor here, a couple of them. I don't remember that on the DDA, but we'll look into that. We might replant some trees to make sure that they're
Oh, that's
healthy
fine.
and,
So it's still under warranty?
Are they still living trees?
I think he says they're dying, and I think they're up on the Baker Road phase up that way. I don't know where they're located at. We'll take a look at it.
I just pulled up his letter and he has a whole long list of different things that he's sort of,
I know.
providing information about that could be helpful to the project.
Yeah.
The tree.
He would come to a lot of our meetings and
Yeah.
he would charge us as a consultant.
He's been both a consultant and a
Yeah,
volunteer.
but he's very knowledgeable in trees, that's for sure.
But the thing that he told me about the trees is there was a memorial tree that was paid for by somebody to be planted in the median, down near, the intersection of Zeeb and, Jackson. And, that tree, I think he said, was hit by a car and damaged and died. But the difficulty is the quality of the soil is so bad from the way that the road commission gathered together the topsoil or didn't, that it's very difficult to plant things and have them survive. But what he suggested is, and seemed to imply, is that there was a commitment by the township to replace the memorial tree if it shouldn't survive. And so he's just I think he was pointing that out, and it was actually planted in honor of the son of a former official, and who's now recently passed away, Dick DeLong. And so Scott was suggesting maybe we could plant 2 trees, one for the father and one for the son. I don't know. We have money in our tree fund.
Yeah.
That could be used for that purpose.
Again, I just got the email at 11:30, so would that?
Yeah, I know, it was the last minute. And it's a
Month, and maybe we
long-
can
it's a
plant
long,
that.
long letter.
Right.
Lots of information.
So, but we'll definitely look into that. So we're gonna look at the landscaping proposal again in July and hopefully get that project going in the fall. On the back are just some things that, again, Jennifer put together the Scio DDA plan, just a general outline. It's a plan that we'll update from 2008's plan. The Smooch project, I copied a lot of you on some emails. We extended that. They didn't get done in time. So again, we're just facilitating grant money from the state of Michigan. So it's not coming from our budget, but it has to go through a local entity. So we're doing that. Really happy with, I can't remember her name on that, environmental consultant. She's doing a great job.
Oh, Ann Jameson.
And I don't know if you talked to her about some other things. The DDA liquor licenses, we had Sandy looking into this. Again, we talked to 10 different people. There was a couple more entities that wanted it. Talking to the manager as well as Will, the trustees are gonna take care of these DDA licenses. They looked at the ordinance. Again, it comes back to them. So, we don't need 2 groups doing the same thing. So if I get information from there, we're gonna pass it to the trustees and they're gonna handle it.
Can I add just a little note? So the State Liquor Control Commission created this category of licenses for communities that have either a DDA or an economic development district of some kind. Their approach is that they won't approve those for a municipality unless the municipality has first used up its quota licenses. And the first one that came through here for the indoor golf business on Jackson Plaza came on the assumption that we had used up our quota licenses, but it turned out that we had one. So they pivoted to applying for the quota license. The board took care of that and approved it. But that uses up all of Scio's quota licenses. So any liquor license applications that come forward will have to be some other kind of liquor license application, and businesses located within the DDA could apply for a DDA category license. But what we learned is it doesn't have to come through the DDA. The approval still rests with the township board. So I guess it just adds another step for it to come through here and then go to the township board. It's up to the DDA whether.
So the last quarter liquor license, you switched it on the Jackson
The
Plaza?
applicant that came through here looking for a DDA license, basically we were told by the liquor control.
The one on
commission,
Jackson Plaza?
They had to go for the quota.
So he's got that one.
Yes.
Okay, what happened to the other guy that was down here by Independence Plaza? He was asking for one too, wasn't it?
There's 2 other people that I know of who've asked about DDA liquor licenses. And I haven't seen either of them sort of move forward to the point where it would come to the board.
Just curiosity, okay.
Yeah, there's some sort of restaurant thing in one of the old restaurants that was alluded to by Trustee Reiser in one of his reports that someone was interested in one.
It's actually just down here, the former pancake place.
Is here?
Yeah, so the owner of that went through rezoning or the planning commission process, so for a different use for that site, was going to have a dentist's office there, but then changed his mind and now wants to have a Mexican restaurant there. And the Mexican restaurant would like to have a liquor license, and that's the one that's sort of hanging out there now. It's probably that one that's most likely to come forward sooner.
That's through the DDA.
And it would have to be a DDA license, but it doesn't have to come through the DDA board.
Correct.
So there's no point in both,
Agreed.
So we're just gonna wash our hands of that. And then it's extending the DDA. It's kind of interesting. We're talking about that. And we bonded Jackson Boulevard that we still pay about $600,000 a year on for another 8 years or so. if another project came up like Jackson Boulevard, which wouldn't be as big, but another bonding project, we have to be showing that we're gonna be around for 10, 20 years to be able to bond. So we have to extend the DDA first to be able to bond. Maybe we won't bond, but we have to extend the DDA to have the potential to bond. And again, if we don't have a DDA, the revenue doesn't come back to the community. It would go back to their entities that we collected from. So
I got 8 years left to leave.
right, so you have to have open meetings, people can come and talk about it. Traverse City just went through the same thing, I forwarded that to the manager here, so I think Mark and I are gonna start processing this and start putting together some potential dates and see if we can move we have plenty of time to do that, but again, if, let's say in 5 years, we wanted to issue a bond, we can't do it because we have to extend the DDA first, so it's cart before, so we're doing this just to be able to have that ability. It's almost like a credit line. We would have the ability to use it if we needed it. So that's why it's important to extend the DDA. But it's got to be approved by the township. Bills and financial report, I couldn't find that. Sandy said there was one bill outstanding, and it might be,
I'll
forward that.
It's in the online agenda.
I looked on that, and I know.
It's on like page 8. I finally found it.
Let's see if I can read it off.
During the
I
break,
tried.
did the minutes get approved from the prior?
No, we have.
So we still have to go back.
Right, we need to approve the minutes.
Do we have the minutes here?
Well, I
Because again, Linda's out of town. I didn't see her minutes.
I see
Minutes on page
minutes of-
4.
of March 13th.
Thanks, Will. So let's look at the minutes first. This agenda's kind of gone all over the place, but
Yeah, and I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. I sort of, if someone can fill me in on like.
we got board members present. Had some people absent. But the landscape, the marketing committee again, the roads again. Pretty short, but any questions on that, on the minutes? Everybody see it? Everybody have it on their phone or? Questions, comments on the minutes from last meeting?
Move that they're approved.
Second. Jeff and Gus. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. And then if you can look up the bills Sandy put together for vacation.
What's our bill, Ryan, one bill?
One bill is for $975 for work on bus shelter to James Fink, and then there's bond payments that we made as well as the grant stuff that's flowed through for Smooge. The bond payments were probably just over $62,000. Yeah, 62,201.
If you look on there on the back. She did call me. There's some, I think they're gonna plant grass seed around the bus shelters. So there's another, Washington Engineering came and brought that to us. Which reminds me, there's another thing on the old business, our attorney's putting together a contract to transfer the ownership of the bus shelters to them. So the two attorneys are talking, we should get that done soon, but that project will be completed. Any questions on the bills? Again, Decker Agency, our bond, Washington Engineering, bond payment made, grant program, applied environmental, and then grant revenue. It's about $2,172 to approve. Any questions?
Well, there was a question raised in public comment about invoice that was not included in the list of bills to be paid. And I guess the question is that an omission that we should correct?
Yeah, I didn't see that. Do you see that bill? It's not in this.
Matthews, it's on page 13 of the, that's for.
It's part of the applied environmental. It's part of the Smooge deal, looks like. Yeah.
840.
I think the problem is that it's just put together.
Well, there's also,
But I think this is the one, this is, they submit these bills to us, but it goes to the grant.
yeah, and there's a,
This isn't a bill that we pay as the DDA.
Yeah.
This is through the state of Michigan.
So it's that.
That's why it's not.
So it's documentation of a grant cost, not a DDA expenditure per se.
Exactly. We haven't paid anything for the Smooch project, and it's just a pass through. There's not a commitment on our end.
Okay.
I mean, I'll email them and call them and just verify that, but we're not gonna approve that.
Right, no, I wanted to raise it. just
Yeah, it's
so
good.
we don't forget.
I mean, ultimately, what happens, it looks like, is a lot of it flows back up to applied environmentals bill.
exactly.
Just the way they invoice this is a hot mess.
Yeah.
I mean, it has all sorts of detail, but it's just a mess.
All right, so we're back at approving about the $2,100, Will, right? You okay with that?
Oops, where?
Just the.
Total expenses to approve is $80,793.42.
Yeah,
I don't see the 80. I don't see that.
That's what I have on the list of bills for the May 8th board meeting.
so it's bonds. Think is $975. Bonds are nominally 61,000. Applied environmental is nominally 18,000. 17.6. Total is 80,793.42.
All right, with our bond payment.
Yeah, that's including 61,000 of bond payments.
So you moved it? Jeff?
I did not, but now I do.
I'm trying to keep track.
Second,
I'll second.
Jennifer, thank you. All those in favor saying, or paying the
I think
bills?
you do a roll call for payment of bills.
Oh, yeah.
Brian,
Yes.
Jeff,
Yes.
Gus.
Yes.
Jennifer,
Yes.
Bob, yes. Will,
Yes.
motion passes. Thank you.
I have to leave in like 3 minutes. I think about it. Hold on.
Old business, I think we went through it again. Supposedly in the 1980s, we had a DDA ID number, tax identification number. You can't call the IRS. They don't service that. I mailed a letter to them at least a couple months ago, so we're waiting to see back and we do have one. It all came up with the bus shelters, who's gonna own it. So all our bank accounts are under Scio's TIN numbers. I've never seen a TIN number for us. So we'll see if we have one.
What was the decision, if any, about the road commission agreement?
Well, we motioned that we're gonna move that to the trustees. We're gonna use the money that we had, as well as ask to use the revolving fund and potentially set up a SAD to collect the 50% back
So,
from Dino Drive.
so ask the board to consider setting up a SAT for the properties on Dino Drive.
To use the revolving fund is what it was meant to be.
Okay.
Do you say, Jillian?
I'm sorry, you have to establish the SAD before you can collect money back. So you can't do the improvement and then go through the SAD process.
So that's a trustee issue, it sounds like.
Well, so
I mean, we're gonna move it forward to you guys.
I just wanted to be clear, make it clear.
That's above our level.
well,
That's what we're gonna suggest or forward to the trustees.
so I just want to clarify that there's a May 19th deadline for approving an agreement with the road commission. And anything that is going to take the decision-making about this project beyond the May 19th deadline jeopardizes doing the project this construction season.
We're in favor of using the revolving fund. It's not in our bank account. It's in, it's under the trustees, so I don't.
So it's up to the trustees,
I
is
think
what you're
so.
saying.
That's what
But the DDA, I just want to be clear because this is going to come up tomorrow.
Right.
The DDA board approves going forward with the project as proposed by the road commission and spending the DDA money that was appropriated for doing work. And and asks the township to pay for the other portion of the cost using the revolving fund.
Yes.
And I guess attendant on that is a recommendation that the DDA or the township board would consider an SID.
Right, to collect the 50% back.
But as trustee Carey has pointed out, the timeframe for creating an SID.
I mean, I don't know why you can't create even an SAD next year to collect that back. It doesn't have to be,
It has to be, you have to follow Public Act 188. That's how it's set up to protect parcel owners. There's a specific process.
Okay, but that motion was made and approved.
And
There was a vote and it was approved.
it may have been when you were,
Running around, I'm sure.
it might have been,
Yeah, and in some ways I'm repeating it because everyone watching at home probably missed it as well because we didn't have a Zoom connection.
That's fine.
Okay.
So we, yeah, again, we approve that on our end, again.
Okay.
We did minutes, we paid our bills, forget anything.
All right, got everything? We got a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Second,
Second.
all those approved, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, guys. Thank you.